GSTL Season 1. NS HoSeo, Axiom Acer, MVP, FX Open, LGIM, Azubu, Prime, StarTale.
It's that time of week again. It is time for the GSTL. I am Wolf. With me is Cal. We're going into our second weekend of matches here.
Yep, the second weekend, and we have two amazing team matches for you, not only today, but also tomorrow. Today we are starting things off with StarTale versus NS HoSeo.
This is going to be a pretty exciting match. NS HoSeo has been working behind the scenes. Not a lot of players in the individual leagues been improving their Heart of the Swarm, and this is something that I think is going to carry into this team league match. StarTale, definitely the favorite here, but NS HoSeo has some surprises up their sleeve.
They have Jagji, and Jagji has been doing very well at MLG. A couple of amazing games. He lost in the end to Rain, but not after he put on an amazing series and was nearly able to take down the strong Protoss player from Casper. So I feel we have definitely a lot of good players in the lineup of NS HoSeo, as you already said, a lot of newer players that are trying to get the experience here. But they were also one of those teams that had a lot more time to prepare in Heart of the Swarm because they didn't have anything to prepare for in Wings of Liberty.
Exactly, and this is kind of a new start for them. They can turn over a new leaf in a new game, a new expansion.
Yep.
They have Sting, who's been doing pretty well here in the studio, as well as sort of. So two Western Wolves players able to join in on the fun. And that is something that's going to, of course, aid them. Yep. I don't know if we'll see them today exactly, but this is just talking about them in general for this upcoming season. They have a lot more to work with. Their roster seemed small at first, but it's like it's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it definitely is. And the players are training a lot. If you are actually following the live streams of Korean players, there is one name that will just appear every single time when you watch someone. Mad Bull, he's training like crazy. He's a very outgoing person. We've seen that the last time that he was on screen in the GSTL preseason. Now he has his chance also here in the regular season. And he's been playing quite a bit. Most players in the Korean ladder use a barcode ID to hide their identity, to make sure that their training methods and also their strategies are not revealed. But Mad Bull, at least, is one of the NS HoSeo players who is still using a normal ID on ladder, and he has been laddering quite a lot. I see him basically pop on every other Terran, Protoss, or Zerg stream from Korean players that I watch.
It's kind of brave to actually put yourself out there like that. In a world of barcodes, if you're Mad Bull, everyone knows you're Mad Bull, and that's something that your opponents can study for sure.
You know, the first time that I actually saw him play against someone, and I watched, I'm not quite sure if it was Jan's stream, but he played against the Zerg player, and the Zerg dared to actually 15 hatch him instead of going into a pool. And Mad Bull, being Mad Bull, of course, cannon rushed him right away. Won the game, so it was a really short game, and it was quite fun. It was like, yeah, that's exactly the guy that we've seen in the preseason, just throwing it out there and being in the opponent's face right away.
Yeah, he's a very aggressive player, has a lot of personality, as you mentioned before, loves to show off for the camera, sometimes in really interesting ways that I don't fully understand.
That leg stuff that we saw the last time that he was pulling off in the makeup room, I'm not quite sure.
There are some attractive females who, if they did that, I still wouldn't be sure if I knew what they were trying to show me.
I would be down for that, but Mad Bull's legs, they might be sexy to some people, not to me personally, but well, today I feel he will have a bit of different banter going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So here are today's, or not today's results, but the results of last week at MVP versus Axiom Acer. Pretty surprising result. MMA was able to pull it off and clutch out that win there in the final two sets.
That was such an amazing series. That team match definitely did go very, very different from what the Team MVP expected here, but Axiom Acer, they did so well, and as we said, MMA, the one really pulled through.
Now here are our standings. This is how the season works. In the past, we had an elimination system, oftentimes double elimination. This is more like Jupiter-Venus system, where it's a round robin. You've got 8 teams, and so you can see the points are starting to come on the board here, and currently LGIM is leading with 1 win, no losses, but they have a +2 indicator, and that indicator column actually becomes really important if there's a tie scenario.
This becomes very, very important at the end of the season especially, and LGIM, of course, one of the favorites for this season. But this is like the curse or the fate that they had to live with every single time they entered a GSTL, a team league. They were also one of the favorite teams, but they always fell short. This time they want to change it. They talked about it quite a lot. and now they are leading the rankings after the first team match. But things are going to change. We have the 4 remaining teams facing off this weekend.
Yeah, and you know, we talked about some of the reasons why HoSeo had a little bit more time to prepare. The main reason is there at the top left. 10 players all in Code B, none of them in the individual leagues currently. They have a pretty good race distribution, but the same could be said of StarTale. And StarTale's lineup right now, especially with Life in the bench, is just so strong.
They have so many good players. Today, starting, we have for them Sound, a player who was really strong in one of the home story cups in 2012. But as you said, they have a player like Life on the bench who just won MLG. He's a prodigy. He's probably the best player that we have in the entire world right now. But he's not the only one. There's also players like Bomber, for example, and also Curious. You already announced that this might be his season.
Yeah. I was impressed with Curious's run through Code S last season.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was going to be him in the finals, but he didn't quite make it.
Yeah, it was very, very close though, and we have so many good players on the StarTale roster. Of course, they suffered a few losses when Squirtle and Parting decided to leave the team, but they have still such a strong lineup, and it's going to be very, very difficult for HoSeo to pull this off.
Yeah, and you know, just talking about those 2 players, even though they're no longer in the team, that influence that they had on the team has carried them and given their team some of the strength that it has. Some of the reason why Curious has great Zerg versus Protoss is because he had Squirrel to train with in the past, because he had Party to train with in the past. And even though they're not on the bench as players, the memory of them and their skill has already rubbed off. It's already in the team.
Yeah. Here is HoSeo, of course, with the lineup that we have, all those players for you, and of course we have a lot of new faces here. You can see to the right the 2 Western Wolf players. We have Sort of and we have Sting. They are joining the lineup today and strengthening it a bit.
Yep, and you can see that basically everybody on this list is a Code B player that, you know, there's a few favorites in there that you've heard of, like Joxy and Tastar, for example. Then you have players like Tibble, Kaisar, Sanai, those players that we've seen in the preseason just a little bit, but there's not too much known about them so far.
Here we have them in our backstage area, and of course the preseason was the chance that the coach had to give all those players a bit of a feeling what it's like to sit in the booth and perform in front of an audience. Mad Bull to the right here, Sanai to the left, the Zerg player, the new Zerg player, who quite impressed in the preseason, but they are up against a team of champions.
They certainly are. Sound, the starting player at the top left, someone you all remember. Golden on the list, as well as players like Hack, Sparta, Panic. I mean, I'm just listing players that you may have heard of, but not to mention Life, Bomber, Curious. And there's even Extreme on the team as well.
Yeah, a lot of strong players. And one of the faces that we, of course, now have also in the lineup is Golden, as you already mentioned. He was formerly performing for Quantic, then Quantic disbanded, and he joined Team StarTale, where he already had a really good relationship with the team. A very, very strong player who traveled to the US, has a really good English because of it. So StarTale facing off against HoSeo today. And I think it's definitely going to be a tough match for HoSeo, but if they gain momentum, and especially if Joxy is able to perform at his best, they might be able to pull it off.
Yeah, I feel like the strategy can almost be described as set things up for Joxy, and then he has to just do a hard finisher, similar to what MMA did last week.
Joxy is used to just performing in this role. He was always the backbone of the team, the pillar of support that they had, and he has to show it once again. This is business as usual for him.
Yeah, and if HoSeo gets ahead, the depth of StarTale is so big, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even use Life as their final player. They could bring him out to stop the streak early if that becomes a problem.
There we have the StarTale lineup. Bomber leading the team. Good glimpse sort of there to the right.
Tastar still has not gotten a haircut. I'm starting to become a little bit concerned.
I actually think that something is living in there.
Yeah, there certainly could be some organisms.
Something is alive. Sort of just came back from PAX. He was in the US for a few days and he came back on Tuesday, as he told me. So he's not jet lagged anymore or anything like it. But he feels like he's not quite sure if he wants to come out today because he just feels like there's a little bit of a deficit in training for him. He would like to prepare a little bit more. But he definitely told us that there is a chance of him playing today in the lineup. It all depends on how the match goes.
Yeah, it's really important to note that, you know, sometimes as a player in a team league, you just don't know if you're going to come out. You're ready to if you have to, but it's just not. There's a level of uncertainty.
It basically tells us already that he doesn't expect to come out as the second player in case they lose, unless he has like an awesome poker face and was fooling us here. But we don't know that just yet. We had still a bit of construction going on in the studio in the last few days, by the way. Everything is even being further improved, so it's actually pretty awesome. I came in here and I didn't expect that, but we had like a lot of construction going on last week, and I feel this is going to continue in the next few weeks. The new studio in Gangnam It is awesome. Every single time I come here, it is just so much different from Mukdong, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are actually starting to get used to the surrounding areas, the cafes and everything, because we used to have kind of our set way of doing things in Mukdong. Now we're sort of adjusting. We've kind of settled in, found a few restaurants, a few cafes.
We have basically this one corner, which is amazing, because we go to a small restaurant first, then we have to walk for like 2 meters, and we're in a cafe. As soon as we're done with the cafe, we usually get something, or we want to have something to drink for when we are sitting here in the booth. So we just have to walk another 2 meters around the corner, and suddenly there's like a supermarket where we can buy everything, and then we go to the studio. It's pretty convenient.
It's almost as if it's been orchestrated just for us. It's quite nice.
Exactly. It's really cool. And, well, guys, if in case you haven't seen the studio yet and the impressions that you get out of the stream here are not enough for you, I actually recorded a video a few days ago where you get a bit of a tour through the studio and also see a few of the backstage areas. If you want to look that up, you can hop on YouTube and just look for GOMTV and Gangnam or GOMTV, and you will directly be forwarded, or in the search result, the first amongst the top 3. That should be like
should be easy to find.
Yeah. It's pretty easy to find.
It's pretty detailed. You actually showed some of the backstage areas, as you said.
Just look for TV and GOMTV or TV and Gangnam, and you will find it. We have also a short tour through the booths to give you an impression of where the players actually play, so that will give you an impression of what the studio looks like when you see everything. Also, like the entrance area. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Well, just talking about this season for NS HoSeo, I feel like their players, there are a few faces that are known, but everyone else is kind of faceless on NS HoSeo. For example, I don't even remember what T-Bull looks like because he's come out one time.
Yep.
And this is kind of their ability to make a new team. You know, everybody remembers Seal. Everybody remembers Freaky, but they're gone. They're gone. And they have to build new personalities because StarTale has every player on that list is known and has a personality.
You know, for me, it was always... NS HoSeo was always a team who was very afraid that they would disband at some point. Especially when they completely dropped out of the last GSTL season very, very early in the season. Then all of their players fell out of Code S, out of Code A, into Code B. It looked like the team would not be able to make it. But now they are back. And I really hope that they can perform well, that they really achieved everything that they tried to do, because it's just, this team has so much history, and it's such a nice team. The players, they are not these high-profile players, maybe with the exception of Jakji, but I really want them to endure and to show that they have the strength to establish themselves, like in maybe the middle of the line.
Yeah, you know, I just ran into the coach a little bit earlier, spoke with him just very briefly. He seems a little bit, I would say that he feels confident. You know, he's ready for this match. He doesn't seem nervous at all. He seems like going into this, he feels he's got a good chance. And to have that type of attitude up against a team like StarTale shows that they've been training hard. They know they have some advantages. Their players are not in individual leagues. They cannot be watched. They've been practicing in the background. They have extra time.
There's also another factor. I mean, if you think about the system that we have right now, we have a round-robin system. That means it's not only about if you win or lose, but at the same time, it's about how many maps can I win with my team. Can I get a bit of an advantage for the later stage of the season? So every map that they win today, it counts, and if they lose it with a 4-3, that's still like a success for them, because they at least were able to take a lot of games off Team StarTale. So that's something that definitely has to be considered here.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You can see Tassadar, even though he's one of the stronger players on the team, has a GSTL win rate that's negative at 6 and 11. And I think that in his hair, he's probably hiding the legacy of the Void expansion. Maybe Tassadar will come back in that expansion, but man, every time I look at him, I'm like, well, you're actually going to have to do something about that eventually, you know.
I already offered my clippers, but for some reason I was refused.
Well, I wouldn't refuse if I were him. He might as well shave his head at this point.
You shouldn't say that too loud, because I will definitely put them to use on your head.
If I were him, that's all I'm saying. Here's Sound. He's a Terran player who is not one of the highest profile players on StarTale, but he has come out a few times. We've seen him in the Code A qualifiers. And I believe he was in Code A for a little bit.
We also had him performing really well in the home story cover in 2012, as I already mentioned. So he's definitely a player who can get all those wins. And we don't see him all too often for StarTale. That's definitely correct. So I'm pretty excited to see him today as the starting player.
It's a smart starting player choice because you don't have a lot of information to study about him. And the starting player is always the one you have the most to prepare for, because that's the one map that you know 100% without a doubt that's where you're going to be facing. And it's kind of hard to study this guy.
Sound had this amazing theory back then when I was visiting the StarTale house. He talked a little bit, and I asked him. Back then he actually didn't wear the glasses. He was like, well, why are Korean players so good? And he turned around, he started laughing, and was like, kimchi! That's his only response. So I've been eating kimchi like crazy ever since, every single day, but I don't see a correlation.
I am the kimchi monster. I eat so much kimchi that...
That basically proves it.
I wonder when I'm walking around sometimes, I'm just like, do I smell like kimchi right now?
Kimchi is awesome. I mean, you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah, that's how it is. And usually, at some point, if you love it, you don't love it at first. You have to kind of develop a taste for it.
That's definitely true, especially when you have all these variations. You have like your dumplings with kimchi and things like this. So that's something that at the beginning I didn't really get all that much, but by now I'm a fan.
I am as well. The map is loading. It's Akalon Waste, map number 1 here. And HoSeo needs to take an early lead. It's very important for them. Tastar, can he do it? He's negative in GSTL.
Yeah. We're gonna find out right now, jumping into game number 1 in Terran vs Protoss. It is Tastar up against Sound here at the GSTL Season 1 2013 with Colin Wolf. Starting to the top left, McKillen Wastes in red. We have the Protoss players. Starting for Team NS HoSeo, it is...
NS HoSeo Tassadar.
No, that's wrong, Ken. We have to do that again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he messed that one up last time.
Yeah, he's a little bit slow with the Tassadar there. But still, it's Tassadar, of course, and he is up against the Terran player for Team StarTale. Introducing to the bottom right in blue.
StarTale. Sound.
Not much ways to mess that one up.
Yeah, there we go. Good boy, Ken. Good boy.
Pretty clear. We'll see what build he wants to show. This is a 2-player map. There's a lot of different ways to scout as a Terran on this map. Oftentimes you'll see a Terran take just the one Reaper to get some information.
Oh yeah, those Reaper openings, they are something that a lot of Terrans rely on these days. In this particular situation so far, we don't have gas being taken, so if he really wants to open up with the Reaper, he has to take it in a few seconds, but it doesn't really look like it just yet. But in general, Terran players really love to open with the Reaper, not only against like a Protoss player, but also against Zerg. You want to know what's going on to your opponent's base, and the Reaper is the perfect tool.
Yeah. And speaking of information, he actually gets a gas late. He needs to make that depot first, so he delays the gas by getting the depot. This means the probe, when he sees this, he doesn't know if there's gas or not, but oftentimes as a Protoss, you will assume when you see that depot, he's probably doing a 1-Rax expand, but the gas is just going to be a little bit delayed here.
Yeah, and as you already said, therefore he has the minerals early on to get the second depot, so the probe is not able to get in the main base. Scouting information already denied, quite important here. Starts things off with this Marine right now. And at this point, Tassadar doesn't really know what's going on.
Yeah, he's a little bit in the dark. He does have second gas up, and this is going to give him the ability to make a sentry if he wants to get that hallucination scout or go for a faster robo. 2 and 2 gas, a very safe standard opening by Tassadar.
Yeah. This is what we usually see from players trying to go for this 2 probe in gas. Something that Nanima and Sasa have been doing for quite a while when they first came to Korea. And then a lot of players have been emulating this. Now going into the reactor and then starting with the factory, an opening that we've seen quite often also where players use like MVP.
Yeah. And this is really smart.
Into command center.
Yeah, he goes for the CC or expand with the reactor. And as actually, if I'm not mistaken, pulled out one of the SCVs from gas. We don't actually have an observing computer today, but it looks like it's going up a little bit slower. And this is, anyways, able to get a command center up a little bit faster with this. He starts the factory afterwards, and this has a lot of flexibility to it. The one thing that it hurts you a little bit on is that you get stim very late. But, you know, there's a lot of different possibilities with what he wants to do with the factory. Could be he gets some Widowmines out for defense. He could just go straight into a starport and get fast drops. Lots of different opportunities.
Yeah, we have now the Mothership core, of course, very early in the game for Protoss play here. Gives him a lot of safety, especially against drop play. Something that you can do here.
And the earlier you have it out, the faster you build up that energy, so you can use it for several different things. The time warp ability, the photon overcharge, whichever one becomes appropriate. And it's oftentimes really good to have that out before your robo, just simply because it's such a great defensive unit and offensive.
Yeah, and you have to wait a little bit until you have the energy available so that you can actually use the upgrade. Widowmine here for our Terran. the StarTale player starting with the Window Mine, and it's such an important tool. When the Protoss opens up with a Stargate and sends an Oracle into your main base and you don't have a Widow Mine, things really can get out of hand. It's such a great weapon against your SCVs and also, of course, against Marines, but a Widow Mine, that's all that you need to do, all you need to build in order to take it out.
Yeah, and another possible option that we could see here, well, he wants to scout first. He'll see the Nexus finish. He wants to come up here and see how many sentries there are. And seeing just these 2 units alone, okay, does see the 3rd Stalker and the Robo, so now he knows, okay, no such Oracles will be coming. He may go for a Widow Mine drop.
Yeah,
he even scans.
He actually may do that, and it's such... The Widow Mines have been deciding most of the games that we have actually seen in at the last weekend. Like, twice Widow Mines took down more than 10 Harvesters, and this really brings you a huge advantage in the early game. So now pushing out with the Marines and the Widow Mine, he can do quite a bit with this, but he has to be careful. Nice micro so far.
Losing half of his hit points on his Widow Mine, not ideal, but it survives, and that's all that matters. He needs to burrow it, he does. It gets destroyed, but the Stalkers had to waste a lot of DPS. He uses the Photon Overcharge, and this aggression is essentially over. There's not much he can do against that firepower.
That was really well defended by Tacita. Taking out the Widow Mine was so important in this situation, and then he uses the Photon Overcharge, repels the aggression. Sound has to move back, is on 2 bases right now, and is also going straight into a double barracks. He wants to make sure that he has the bio forces available if there's a push out, but he's not done with the aggression just yet.
Yeah, he wants to send a 2nd drop over. I really have to hand it to Tassar. That was a great defense. He focuses the Widow Mine just simply because he knows that's the biggest threat. The Marines are not going to be an issue with the Photon Overcharge. The drop is spotted, and this is terrible for Sound.
Exactly, the drop is spotted, and this is definitely something that is going to play in the hands of our Protoss player, who has a 2nd Observer now, just in case there is going to be a Widow Mine drop. He also has the Stalkers just ready, so he can react in time, and here we go. He sees what's going on, and Sound moves back, boosts out there with the Afterburners. He knows that taking this risk would be a bit too much.
Yeah, this is just really safe play by Tastar overall. Not really putting on any aggression, just defending, trying to get his Colossus tech out now, which is something that Sound has not yet seen.
He's playing a bit defensive here, and you kind of have to do this at this stage in Heart of the Swarm. So we have still the Medivac trying to find an opening here, and he might have actually spotted one at the natural.
Yeah, he's just going to save that boost. Notice he doesn't use it aggressively to come in. He's only going to use it to retreat. As soon as the Stalkers show up, he's just going to boost out.
Yeah, he takes down 3, 4 Harvesters. Well done. Tries to maybe even pick off one of the Zealots, but now he needs to back off here. 1 Marine gets left behind. This is not Ohana.
Nope, certainly not. I really like that he waited such a long time before using the boost. He knows it's better to use it retreating-wise, because getting in there, he already got in. He doesn't have to boost early. Just such patience there.
He saw the Widow Mine, but he just doesn't take it out yet. And there's one thing that you always have to be very careful about. The Widow Mine has a range of 5, a Stalker has a range of 6, so usually you should be able to take it out. But sometimes the pathing bugs a little bit, and then your Stalker just gets into range. So you have to be very careful with that. And as you can see, the Widow Mine doesn't stand a chance here.
Yeah, you know, if you have 5 or 6 Stalkers so that all of them can fire, they'll continue to inch forward, and that gets you into the range sometimes. The Widow Mine will one-shot a Stalker, so you got to be very careful about that, like Keller said. Upgrade-wise in this game, we have Sound a little bit ahead, but with Chrono Boost and the Double Forge, that gap will be closed quite quickly by Tassadar.
Yep, +1/+1 is on its way. On the other hand, we have Combat Shield now done and Stim also being researched. A lot of gateways coming in, and with the pylon to the right side, he has the perfect tool to put aggression on the 3rd base that Sound is just now trying to establish.
Yeah, it's really important that he scouts it though. You know, if he doesn't see it, then he won't be able to use this opportunity.
One of the problems that Sound really has is that in regards to the upgrades, he only has 1 engineering bay, so the Double Forge will over time definitely give him a huge problem to deal with.
Yeah, he doesn't have a 2nd one on the way, nor an armory just yet, whereas the Twilight Council is already on the way here.
You can really see the style that is being played by Tassadar, just trying to sit tight on 2 bases, get an advantage, and hit with those upgrades. He doesn't even try to take a 3rd base at this point, but he has the forward pylon, and so he can pressure the one of Sound.
Exactly, that forward pylon is actually just another card in his hand he can use anytime. Stim goes down here, only 1 Colossus, he has to micro it.
He loses it! He loses the Colossus!
Oh, that was not very well done, but 3 Zealots warping in here. The Medivac healing power maybe too much. Nexus Cannon, though, does go down.
Photon Overcharge doing quite a lot here, but there are way too many Marines. They're moving in, and of course those extra Marauders, they deal with the Stalkers immediately. Those Zealots, they don't have charge yet, and this is a huge problem for Tassadar.
Sound sees an opportunity, stims in and goes for it. Only 1 Colossus. It's targeted down, and this may be game ending. The damage output here is just too much. As long as he gets away from that Nexus, he should be able to boost away.
A great stutter step in this one. Colossus that he lost, that was definitely the nail in the coffin. Tacitus trying to hold on to this game, but Sound is on a roll.
Yeah, you know, he only got 5 Marauders and a Marine, but if you have that much firepower, your opponent's warpins are not going to be a problem. You just have to stay away from that Nexus.
The Mothership Core alone won't be able to deal with this. The reinforcements are already moving and taking down Harvesters.
And the cannon is over. He doesn't have any more ability to use it. His Nexus is done.
Here comes one of the Colossi, though. The second one is out now. Maybe he can pull this off for now.
He's kiting away here down the ramp, and it looks like he's out of energy on the Medivacs. He's going to wait a little bit longer, but now there's no anti-air. The sentries are not enough here.
The sentries are definitely not going to be enough. There are too many Marauders, and they deal with them immediately. Now stimming in once again, and bam!
Bam, now kiting away at the Zealots. The Medivacs starting to get a little bit more energy, and this is just one wave. He's sending more and more units across, and it's just too efficient of a trade.
He's on 3 bases already. He has 3 mining bases, and he is still not letting off at the aggression. He's nearly 30 supply ahead, moving in again with those Marauders, with those Marines.
Mothership Core is down. The Zealots trying to come in here. He's kiting them really, really well.
He's doing a lot of damage here, and Tacitus just trying to hold on for dear life. He gets another Colossus out there, and he's able to repel this aggression for now, but he was taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, you know, you never want to be behind in Harvesters as a Frost. That Chrono Boost, it's 56 to 52 right now.
You're so right, Wolf. This is definitely not a good position for him to be in. It's not only the fact that he's behind in Harvesters, he is behind in bases, he doesn't have the mules.
His army is weak.
Yeah. Tensida is in a bad spot.
He really is. The only upgrade, or the only advantage he had was his upgrades, but that's going to be thinned out here pretty soon with the second eBay and the armory coming up. And upgrades alone can't get you back into a game when your army is this small. He can't attack. All he can do is hope to defend on a worse economy.
He has a really, really good scouting here, though, with all those observers that he has scattered across the map. But is it going to be enough? The army is thinned out, as we said, Wolf. So now suddenly this job is possible in the main base. And can he deal with it?
It looks like he's going to pick off 3 Zealots at the very least. May try to go for the Colossus, but no. Decides to get out of here, losing almost nothing. Yeah, look at that.
And he still has units rallied across the map. Now we have Charge on the way, though. A few Zealots with this warp in to the right side. The pylon that we pointed out earlier, they are doing a bit of damage and at least try to pressure the third. But is it really going to be enough to come back into this game?
Yeah, nice feedbacks. That was huge. Now there's a second attack, though, coming in the natural. He needs to be at 2 places at once.
Yeah. The Terran play here tries to go for a multi-prong attack, but definitely a big problem were those feedbacks. They kind of took the energy, the power out of this aggression.
Yeah, and +2 armor is getting pretty close to being done for Tastar. This is going to give him a pretty big upgrade lead with Charge. All he needs is the third base, and then he can maybe try to claw his way back into this game. He's down 40 supply. I just don't know if he can survive this aggression.
Yeah, the army size is just enormous for Sound now, and he's moving in. He's trying to make sure that the Colossus is taken out immediately by the Vikings.
The Zealot's charging in here. He has a surround for only a moment.
The stutter step is good, and now all those bio units walking up the ramp once again, trying to go for victory.
Medevac's falling here, but it just doesn't matter. There's way too much DPS. 50 supply lead here, and I think that this may be the end for HoSeo's first player.
He's trying what he can. He's warping in additional units. Storm is not done just yet, and the armor upgrade is not finished either.
Doesn't finish. The Stalkers, though, are finished. So was that last Archon. Even though this army's low hit points, it's too much. GG.
Well played. Sound takes the win. Tacitus for a long time is able to hold on, but in the end he is overwhelmed by the StarTale player.
Yeah, you know, I feel part of the reason why I was able to hold on so long is that the units were streaming across so slowly that he was able to defend each small wave. But once he sat back, used that 3-base economy for about 2 rounds of Marauders and Marines, the Medivacs came in with better energy and he was able to finish it off.
His defense at the beginning was really not all that bad. He was really sitting tight there on his 2 bases and trying to just go for an army that had the better upgrades, go for the better tech. The problem really was when Sound moved in at the perfect timing and took out the Colossus.
Yeah, losing that Colossus was huge. It was a great reaction by Sound. He just looked up the ramp, he saw the opportunity, and he took it. And when you're the aggressor, sometimes that attack can be quite surprising.
As soon as Tacitus has 2 Colossi out there and even the range upgrade, it's so much easier for him to fend off pure bio attacks. But it never came to it because we had every single time Sound just moving in and sniping the Colossus, sniping the second one, and then going for the third one as soon as he had the Vikings.
Yeah, and you know, it's hard to be critical of him not pulling the Colossus back right away, because if you pull the Colossus back and your opponent doesn't target it, then you just lose DPS. So you have to find the balance there. And when your army is that small, when you have no real ground support, it's just kind of a lose-lose situation.
It was really well played by Sound. He moved out, put on the aggression at the same time, taking the third base, making sure that he had the better economy the entire time. And then when Tacitus was pressured this much, he did not focus on his economy anymore, of course. He just warped in units, trying to survive. So as soon as the aggression was over and he finally was like, well, I have a few seconds now, I repelled the attack. He was so far behind in economy already. We had 3 bases for Sound, more harvesters, the mules, it was just too much.
He was just trying to bank on the tech. Once he knew he couldn't get a third base, he was depending on that storm and those armor upgrades, and they just weren't quite ready. Sound didn't give him the time.
Even the armor upgrade, it looked like he would really be able to get the armor upgrade out before the fight started, but then Sound hit once again with a perfect timing here. Armor upgrade not done, and Sound, he just didn't give Tessita a chance.
Yeah, you know, armor upgrades make a big difference in fights that are fairly even in army supply, but when your opponent has nearly twice the army supply of you go into that fight, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, in terms of the army supply, we had Sound being far ahead in this game. So we have a 1-0 lead for Team StarTale now. HoSeo is already down 1 map, and they have to come up with a player to counter the Terran opponent here.
Yeah, and I'm wondering who that's going to be. There's a lot of talent on that bench.
Yeah.
And are they going to send somebody out like Mad Bull? Are they going to send somebody stronger out, like, for example, Joxy? I think they have to save Joxy to the end, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. The problem that they really have is that the last time they were in this situation, they had players stepping it up, like Seal, for example, like Freaky. So they need players now that we don't know just yet, where we don't know so much about them, that step it up. And Sanai might be the one who can pull it off. He played very well in the preseason. Can he do it again today? That's
what we're going to find out. Sanai, one of their better Zerg players, he's been sent out several times. It's someone that has been talked about by the coach in interviews, for example.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good choice. They don't have players like Sculp anymore. They don't have players like Seal that aren't the anchor of the team, but somebody who's strong you send out second, and Sanai could be that new guy.
Exactly. They had Seal, they had Freaky, but both retired, so now they need someone else to step up. They cannot only rely on Joxy. So now they have Sanai in the booth. Is he the one to take out Sound? We're gonna find out very soon. Before we're going into game number 2, we'll of course once again have a 5-minute break, and as soon as we are back, we will see a Zerg versus Terran with Sanai being up against the Sound here at the GSTL with Column.